move you once Michael gets done screwing around with us. David, you got to slide down a little bit so we can actually see your smiling face. Close, actually. I'm actually looking at something else, Mike. David.
Okay.
So, all right. Hey, Drew and James, you guys sit here because there's a camera behind you, James. So.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Hey, Michael Higdon.
What's up, buddy?
You've heard me talk about this guy for probably, I don't know, 10 years. And I always tell you my buddy James, who's like our equivalent in the mortgage business. And his friend Drew.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Nice to meet you. Mr. James Chu.
Hey, James.
Everybody else, Drew McKenzie, introduce yourself. Right? Drew and James have been doing this for how many years?
Not doing business. We worked together.
You've been sleeping together for how many years?
At least probably 14.
14. Of those 14, they, you know what, never missed a beat. David, tell them about yourself. How long you been in the business?
I've been with the bank just under 2 years now.
Another 2 years now. James is also, they were also operating originators, kind of like a working broker, right? These guys are the originators. Don?
I've been in the business 13 years. I just started with US Bank a month ago.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Hi, I'm Alicia. I've been in the business about 12 years with the bank, a little over 1 year.
Ashley?
Hi, Ashley Suarez. I've been with the bank for a little under 2 years.
Okay. So you guys are all mortgage brokers or loan officers in some capacity?
Loan officers.
Loan officers. Okay. Okay.
So I just wanted to, so we got, James has got to run through an appointment. So instead of doing this at 12:15, we're going to do it now. We're basically going to do is, Michael Higdon and I have been hanging out for probably about 10 years. We were trained by the same guys, Mike Curry, James. Michael, how many, you're in Louisville, Kentucky, right?
That's right. Born and raised.
Born and raised. How many agents are in Louisville, Kentucky?
Last check, I think there's 4,800 licensed realtors in Kentucky. Also last count, 50% of those agents did 0 deals last year. 80% did less than 4. So you heard the old adage 90 or 80-20 rule. Here locally, it's more like 95-5. So there's 5% of the agents that are doing 95% of the business, and I'm, knock on wood, pat myself on the back, I'm in that 1% of the realtors in Louisville, Kentucky.
Probably 0.5%. So let me ask you this: in Louisville, how many deals a year take place?
Probably about 12,500.
That's 1,000 a month. So in case you guys are aware of it, in my market in Florham Park,
give or take,
there's 10. And in Hoboken, there's 600 transactions a year, 1,200 sides, so it's 100 deals a month.
So if you're, that's houses sold. So if you're doubling those up on sides, you're probably looking more like, 24,000. Yeah.
Right. But my point is totally different markets.
Yeah.
Totally different mindset, totally different. How big of an area is that you're talking about?
So our population density, I think we're ranked like the 29th largest city in the U.S. So we've got around 650 to 700,000 people. If you're including, we're right on the Ohio River geographically. So Southern Indiana is just across from us. So if you're including them, you probably get up right at 1 million people.
Okay.
Our active inventory this morning was 2850. So for Jefferson County is our main county. So for that main county, you have 2,800 houses. That's it. That includes single family residential, land, lots, condos, everything from 0 to however many millions of dollars is, the listing is. Not a lot of listings.
So Michael, how many deals are you going to do this year? What's your goal?
My goal is 75 houses sold.
How many people on your team?
I have 1 transaction coordinator.
Do you have your other buyer agent? He's sitting next to you on the floor.
I have my 2 pugs that are my coordinators here with me.
My point is that the average agent in the United States does 6 deals a year. Full-time agent does 6 transactions a year. He's going to do 10 times that. Him and I have been hanging out for years. We've been doing that for years. For 25 years we've been doing that. Michael and I get on what's called the Google Hangout, just like this, and we prospect together at the same time. He prospects his market, I prospect my market at the same time, screaming and hollering, doing whatever we're doing. We also inspire each other to make an appointment. So Michael had an experience with my associate. I have a new buyer agent. I said to him, here, call these for sale by owners. I didn't realize it. There's another gentleman we hang out with. Maybe we'll interview him next week. Is a guy named Paul South. Paul lives in Boston. I stuck his name in the pipeline to say, hey, he's an expired listing or for sale by owner. He didn't realize it that Paul is actually our friend. He's actually on the hangout with Paul and Michael, practically, calling people. Ends up calling Paul. Paul picks up the phone, goes through the whole script with him, and boy doesn't even realize that he's the other guy I've ever read. Not him, but the other guy. And Michael and him said, hey, great job. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you got to get excited. Here's where you should shift and all that stuff. So Michael, today what we're talking about these guys is I wanted to point out what is successful people have what I call a personal success formula. What is Michael Higdon's personal success formula?
One, knowing your numbers. It's all what we do. And again, I'm sure you guys do a lot of the same stuff as numbers-based industry. There's a certain amount of people that I have to talk to every single day to get to a certain amount of deals. So you need to back engineer on what's your goals for the year. If I want to do 100 deals, if I want to do 100 transactions, now I'm sure that translates into the loan business some way, shape, or form.
David, what's your numbers?
72.
What does that equate to, Ashley?
6 a month.
6 a month, right?
Yeah.
Say it like you mean it.
6 a month.
6 a month. She's not getting very excited about that. Hey, Michael, what do you do when you get up?
I take a shower, take my kids to school. I drop them off. My wife is a local radio DJ, so she's morning drive time. So she's already gone by the time we get up and go. But I drop my kids off. I come back. I role play my scripts that I've read, thousands of times over the last 17 years, just to, again, get practice. It's like Tiger Woods hitting golf balls. You practice.
You're still reading.
What's that?
Still practicing your script?
Still practicing your scripts, the same ones that you learn.
Why?
Because you can't think that you know everything, and you have to keep sharpening that saw, because somebody out there is trying to do it better every single day. Somebody's trying to beat you for your leads, trying to beat you for that business. And the better you know that script, the more that you can listen intently to people. If I'm reading from a script and I don't know it, then I'm not listening to what they're saying. I'm thinking, okay, I gotta listen to my next line. Oh, wait, when do you plan on moving? Okay, when do you plan on moving? Oh, then they just told me I'm not listening. But if I know my script, if I know what I'm going to say next, then I can say, great, what does that do for you? What does that do for you? I can keep asking questions. Sales is nothing more than a series of questions trying to get to to what, Sean?
Desired outcome.
Thank you.
Hey, let me ask you a question. If you were talking to somebody, what do you think the language pattern would be if I said, hey, I'm looking for a blue house. I'm looking for a blue house in Kentucky. How would you respond to that?
You're looking for a blue house, Kentucky. That's exciting. When do you want to be in Kentucky, Sean?
Second. Anybody know what he just did? What did he do? What have we been talking about?
Repeated the question.
You repeated. Hey, Michael, what else would you say?
Say that's fantastic. Sean, how soon do you want to be in Kentucky?
By the way, he said, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's approving it. Then what else he said? He said, oh, when do you want to be in Kentucky? He's affirming it. You're coming to Kentucky.
Mhm.
Then what did he say? He asked you another question. He said, when can I help you, basically? I've been trying to drill that into their head that the language pattern is probably one of the most important things we ever learn.
Yeah.
Repeat,
Repeat, approve, and affirm, and then move on to the next question. And if they don't get information, spin it around. Come back, ask it another way.
Do you have like a housekeeper, a chef, and all that stuff? And when your kid gets sick, what do you just call somebody, right? And they come take your kid?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. How many kids you got, Michael?
I have 2 kids. One, my son Jacob is 10. My daughter Ava is 7. They're in 4th and 2nd grade.
So you're operating business and all this stuff is happening around you, right? You have distractions. You have all kinds of things going on, right?
You have all kinds of distractions, and that's the sign of a successful person, is doing it on the days that you don't want to do it, and being able to eliminate or at least lower down the distractions that you have. getting rid of the shiny object syndrome, as we call it. You know, it's like, well, I know I have a plan for what works, but by God, I want to go. I hear so much about these Facebook ads, or I want to start this new campaign, or I want to do this new thing that I saw, instead of sticking to the things that work for me every single day. Nothing wrong with implementing new things. And I think everyone should implement 1 to 2 new things every single year. But if you stop doing the things that made you successful in the first place, that's where people get in trouble. Then they turn around and say, gosh, why did I do 5 deals less or 10 deals less than I did last year? Well, did you stick? Were you consistently consistent? Not, I'm going to do it 2 days and then I'm going to go play on Facebook 1 day and then I'm going to go do this. Then I'm going to take a day off. Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a day off. That's where those roller coasters, ups and downs in your business come from. Where you want it is you want to, the only time a business is good where it flatlines, you know, a flatline doesn't mean you're dead. In real estate, if you're flatlining, that's a good thing. Or in mortgages or loans, if you're flatlining, that means if you're up here flatlining, that means you're steady. That means you're doing every single day what you're supposed to be doing.
Hey, Michael, let me ask you a question. How many lenders do you work with?
You know, I've got 2 go-to ones that I have.
What makes them special? Why do you use those guys versus anybody else?
They get it done. I know that they're going to get it done every single time. I've been using them for 15 years. And believe me, I use the term, I could grab a cat by the tail and swing them around a room and hit a mortgage broker or a lender, right? They're everywhere. And if I had enough business to give to all the lenders and loan officers that I know, man, I'd be a really, really wealthy man. And I tell people that, say, you know, I want to go have lunch with you, but it's going to be nothing more than you buying me lunch. Unless you can bring something new to the table that this guy's not doing for me. I use those because they're reliable. I've used them, like I said, for 15 years. Doesn't mean I'm not open to trying to get new business. If I have somebody that's maybe questionable that comes in, I'll throw a bone to a new friend or new client or a new relationship that somebody's really sticking with me. If a lender keeps coming at me on a regular basis and shows me that they're hungry and shows me that they really want it and not just oh, I understand you've got a relationship somewhere. If you keep taking no for an answer, then you're never going to get any business.
Hey, Michael, you said you had 2 lenders. If I'm a buyer and I come in your door, what determines which lender you send them to?
Probably the one that sent me a gift card for Christmas.
What else?
No, I'm kidding. No, their past records, the amount of, you know, again, here locally, we have mortgage brokers and we have banks. It depends on kind of the product that they need. I know that there's some down payment assistance funds that were just released through the banks. I guess they're FDIC type funds that are backed by them. I'm only going to send a certain type of buyer that pre-qualifies for that. They can only get that through a bank. So I have a bank relationship with someone. Otherwise, I'm sending them to a mortgage broker who can maybe shop them across a suite of products over, you know, other institutions. So again, I'm asking questions of what they look like. I want to send them, you know, 1, do you have a previous relationship with someone that you know, like, and trust? Great. Is it called Rocket Mortgage? Okay, great. That's not a relationship. We need to get rid of them. If somebody out of state, I want to try to get them into a local person, because it's still about relationships. If you can sit down with someone face to face and know that the transaction is going to go smoother just by being local, that's what I want to do.
Hey guys, I just want to respect Michael's time. Michael, it's 12:16. I just want to ask these guys if you can give me 4 more minutes to ask.
Yeah, keep going, man. I'm good.
Anybody got a question for Michael? What questions would you ask?
You actually hit on most of my questions.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, Michael, I was saying to these guys.
I have a question. Do you all have a daily routine that you try to stick to generate new business?
Personally, I'm still hammering that out. Getting
I've been asking people that I know to introduce me to their network of people just so that I can.
Bingo. I think what your number one lead source should always be your database. I know Sean has a checklist of people that he comes in every day. And this is both my schedule and my checklist. And I know Sean has this as well, where 7:30.
Put that a little closer to the camera for a second. Move it this way. Back it up a little bit. Role play. Mike Ferry, read business plan, right? Pull his numbers, 15 minutes with an assistant, expired, canceled. These little boxes, By the way, I'm on the phone with him typically about at least 3 mornings a week. When we get on the phone, and he's like this on clockwork. And I'll say, Jesus Christ, I'm getting my head beat up. He goes, well, did you change who you're calling? He's got it better. His system is a little bit better than mine. And what's funny is he's all paper, I'm all digital. So it's not one way or the other. It's whatever's going to work for you.
Well, I'm both. So I've got a numbers analyzer that I have, and every day I punch my numbers in of what I've done. This just keeps me on track, and I keep this in a binder so that I can go through the year and say, well, I had 3 days there where I was only hitting maybe 10 contacts or 14 or whatever. I've got a goal, and then I hit that goal.
How many contacts do you need? How many people do you need to speak to nowadays?
I know that probably 7 to 10% is going to come from my database. I have a database of 400 to 500 people. So I know I'm going to get a certain percentage of them just by contacting them every single quarter, sending them letters, sending them mailers, just, again, touching them, whether you want to call it a 33-point touch or some way, shape, or form you want to talk to your database, because they still represent the largest portion of what I'm doing. Me, I do probably another 20% of my business comes from probates and estate works. I do a lot of work, as does Sean. I do a lot of work with estate attorneys, calling probates and estates directly. Still call the traditional for sale by owners, expireds, canceleds. So I've got, for lack of a better analogy, I call it fishing in a lot of different ponds. If you go out and you have one line you're casting, okay, you're marginalizing the amount of fish that you catch that day. If you've got 10 poles in 10 different lakes all around your property, you're going to keep going back and checking those. And you know what? You're going to catch a lot more fish. So don't be, and I tell people, try to fish in new ponds, even though you're not comfortable with it. You have to be uncomfortable with it first. You have to go through, pardon my French, you have to go through the suck. You have to suck at it before you can really be good at it. So fail forward, try to open yourself up to new lead sources, and practice.
Hey, Michael, let me ask you one final question. We talked about this last week. If I called you up and I was an aggressive mortgage lender, but you knew I was solid, you knew that I had my company had a good reputation, and I said, hey, Michael, would you mind if I came to your open house and helped you to market that open house?
No, I wouldn't mind at all.
And what would be a way that, if I was to call you as an agent, how instead of me calling you saying, hey, give me, what could I offer you that would inspire you to even have a conversation with me past Jump Street? What Jump Street is, you call me and I go, hey, I can't talk to you, hang up.
Maybe there's a lot of agents that still do traditional mailers. They mail out information. I know with one of my lenders right now, he took me to lunch the other day and said, hey, do you send out mailers? I said, I've got a 1,000-piece mailer going out to a couple of the neighborhoods he said, let me pick up the postage. Would you care if I slipped in maybe one of my pieces of information along with your mailer talking about our services? I was like, sure. He's sharing 50% of the cost on that. I do a bulk mailer, so to 1,000 people, that's, I don't know, I think it's like $250. So if I can, split my cost down to 125, yeah, that's great, because I can use that for more mailers. So he might pick up another person off of that. He's helping to pay for the mailer. And oh, by the way, if I get something off of it, I'm going back to him again. And I tell you what, if somebody calls off of that mailer as a result of him helping pay for it, I'm going to send that deal to him.
So Michael, you have done a lot of transactions. So doing the transaction, how much contact do you like to hear from your lender?
Whether it's, another bad analogy of mine is I'm the waiter. I used to wait tables back in the day in college. You guys are the chef, okay? I'm the orchestrator of the band, whatever you want to call it. I don't care how you prepare it. I don't care what you do with it. I just want it to taste good to the client. If it doesn't taste good, I'm coming back and I'm going to let you know you need to fix it. You need to redo it. So I like to know whether it's digital correspondence is great. You're copying the client. Just copy me on everything. That's fine. Then I know that it's going out. If you have any problems, give me a call, a text. I prefer just, an email, just because you have a record of it. And then you know that the effort's going on. What I don't want to hear is nothing. And just say, oh, we're closing in 2 days. What do you mean we're closing? Where the hell you been? I haven't heard a thing from you regarding the appraisal. I haven't heard anything regarding here's where it is in underwriting. The more I hear, for me, I can't speak for other agents, but I like a lot of communication via, text or whatever systems. I'm sure you guys have some robust communication systems put in place, or you wouldn't be as successful as you are.
And how often do you have business review with your business partners?
I'm sorry?
Business review with your business partners. Like you go in with
your
the mortgage lender and say, hey, here's what I'm doing this year. Can I count on you for 10 more deals or 5 more referrals?
I don't know that I've ever had that, to be honest with you. It's more deal to deal. Unless we want maybe quarterly or half a year, where they say, let's go to lunch and catch up and just see, what we can do to generate more business together. So I don't know that a lender does that on a consistent basis.
Get together to generate more business together.
They speak the same
That's
language,
a partnership that you really are looking for. Am I correct on that, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How can I help you? How can we generate more business together?
I just want to interrupt for 1 second. We've talked a lot about how language shapes our world and how our language is going to create certain things. And I said, I don't use the word can't. I use the word problem. We use challenges because you can overcome a challenge. Anybody notice how many times he said, I'm going to do a deal, or I'm going to sell somebody a house, I'm going to do a transaction? I can count it on one hand. I think if I had to guess, maybe twice, once, and we asked him directly how many of these or how many of those. But other than that, everything he's talking about is service contribution. How do I do this? How can I provide that? What can I do, or what can you do for me that's going to help us as a partnership? So it's not a one-on-one. And what we talked about is having the technology, having what I call RI squared, which is really intelligent information. It's tactical information using artificial intelligence to push on that to get somebody to raise their hand in that pond. So instead of going to hunt for a fish in the ocean, if I want to go get a trout, why don't I go into a farm-raised trout farm where there's 600 of them and just take out a net and go like this? How do I do that? Is I know what they're doing. I know when they eat. I know what they feed. I know when they're going to raise their hand and when they're not to, because I've been talking to them. We talked about our perfect 10. Michael, we talked about, remember the book we did, Attracting the Perfect Customer? And I said, create a perfect 10 list, the 10 partners that you, or the 10 brokers or real estate agents that you want to partner with, or financial planners, attorneys, whatever, so that you can take 10% of that, 10 to 20% of that top 10 is going to spin off at least 1 to 2 transactions. So instead of having to do 6 every month, you really only got to do 4, because if you're pushing on this, it should automatically spin off 2 just by itself, and by you pushing it on a little bit. Then you're really only going to look for the other 4. And if 2 of those are coming from, like Michael said, from that popper of the people that I've already helped and done business with, now I'm really only looking for 2. And if you showed up in my open house, which I actually said, James, somebody may want to come to our open house. How many people did I ask you guys to contact last week? 25. And I said to you, what to do, right? I said, how many to call? Call 25, text 5 a day, email 100, right? It was 150, right? 5 days. Anybody do the homework? By the way, if you wanted to at least get to 15, and all you had to do is stand in my open house for 3 hours with my associate, and you would have contacted 15 people right there. So that's, Michael, any last word? What if I was a young mortgage rep or a real estate agent, what's the one thing you would tell me to do besides scratch?
For me, contacts equals contact. The more people you can talk to, embrace failure. I mean, really embrace failure, whether that be the amount of people you talk to. And there's a great book called Go for No. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, where it re-engineers your thinking, where most people are calling looking for a yes. Okay, this guy's tracking the no's. He's embracing the no. So he's going for the no. So he has to get a certain amount of no's before he can get off the phone. So if a person keeps seeing, it's like, well, this person said yes. Well, that ruins my no's. So people keep saying yes, it's getting in the way of his no's. So it's a really quick read, but it's really good to help you re-engineer your kind of thinking while you're on the phone. Because sometimes it's not fun talking to a lot of people, but when you know that by doing that, going through the motion, it's going to get you to a set goal that's on the wall, that should be in front of you every single day, and you should look at it every single day, then it's worth your time.
By the way, everybody, if you guys can say thank you to Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
If you guys need somebody in Kentucky, Louisville, you get in contact with Michael. Michael,
We're in those flyover states, so
what's your website, Michael?
WeMoveLouisville.com.
It's Louisville, not Louisville.
Louisville. You got to say like marbles in your mouth. Yeah.
It is Michael, not Mike. All right, Michael, I appreciate your time as always, brother. I'll talk to
Always,
you.
buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. My pleasure. Take care.